What's up again, everybody? Long time no see. We are getting closer and closer to the release of the X-Men Dark Phoenix Draft Pack set. I mean, what are we now? We're like halfway through October, so we're basically on the downhill path. I mean, we're hurtling towards the new set, and I am looking forward to it so much. In fact, I'm looking forward to it so much so that I think I'm just going to drop a bunch more spoilers. Let's fill out some of the holes in cards that we don't quite know yet. We've got a bunch of cards to cover, so let's get started. And we're going to look at cards from all different characters, but right now we're going to start with the good guys, the X-Men cards that I've got to show you today. And we're going to start with 3, 2, 1, boom! Angel, wings over the world. He is a 2-cost shield character, X-Men affiliated. He's a common. He's got the 022, 133, 134 stat line. His art is absolutely amazing. He says, Energize. Target sidekick die gets +2 this turn. If you've forgotten, Energize is an effect that will trigger only when you roll this on the 2 energy side on the die. So anytime that you roll this as a 2 shield and you keep that roll, if it's like during your roll and reroll step, if you keep it on the 2 shields, then you will trigger this Energize effect. If for some reason you roll this during your main phase or, I guess during your attack step or whatever, if something makes you roll this out of your bag or out of the field and it comes up as a 2 shield side on his die face, whatever you want to say, then you will trigger the Energize effect. Now, is this a very powerful Energize effect? No, but we have a really well statted 2-drop, good shield energy, which is always fairly useful. And this is a generally pretty good card to pick up in a draft. And oh, by the way, the point of this set is to draft it. Now, whether or not we can actually draft it remains to be seen going forward, but as long as product continues to exist for this, whenever we get out of these crazy times and people can come back together in person, this would be a great, solid little draft pickup somewhere midway through the draft. Next up, we have one of the cards that I'm more excited about. This is also a solid pickup in draft. This is Beast, Brawny and Brainy, a 2-drop fist character, X-Men affiliated with the 021, 122, 132 stat line, and he just straight up says Overcrush. And you may go, but then I think about the fact that we already have a character like this, a 2-drop Overcrusher, but only can be blocked by sidekick characters, and that card's good. And here we have another version of that. It doesn't have the second stipulation. That's a Black Widow card from the previous set. This is a Beast card that has X-Men kind of synergies that is a 2-drop, and just 2-drop Overcrush is super solid just because Overcrush is super solid. I mean, look at the way that the meta is panned out. If you can get Overcrush characters out and start having them do crazy things where you double their attack or give them more attack than double that, then you can do really, really good stuff. This is exactly... this fits exactly that. Like, I feel like you're going to be able to get this, get it out there, buff it up a couple times, then double the printed attack, or double the printed attack and then buff it up, I guess is what you would do with the Jerry Lawler global and then pump globals. And all of a sudden you have a 2-drop threat that is easy to pick up in draft if you're playing that. As long as we see buff globals somewhere within this set, then this is a really solid win condition. Even without all of that, just having a 3-2 that could Overcrush if your opponent blocks with a sidekick means they have to block with a character they care about, and therefore you're forcing their other blocks to be potentially worse and potentially better for you. So this is a solid, solid card. Forge, More Than Firepower, is a 3-drop Bolt character, X-Men affiliated again. He's got the 122, 142, 244 stat line. Man, it is really hard to like those fielding costs unless you look at his ability and he says, when fielded, if you spent a Bolt energy to field Forge, you get to prep a die from your bag. So on his level 1 and on his level 2 character face, if you pay a Bolt, that Bolt sort of replaces itself next turn, if that makes sense. You pay the Bolt, and that allows you to pull a die from your bag and prep it. So it's kind of like the Forge that we got in the X-Men Forever campaign box, the one that says when you fielded, draw and roll a die, where that it basically replaced the energy that you paid to put Forge out there. Except in this version, we are prepping the die. So kind of an interesting little trade-off both ways, because sometimes you did just want to roll that die in limited formats like casual play. Sometimes you just wanted that extra energy to do something else with, but having the ability to prep the die and roll it twice next turn during your clear and draw, then roll and reroll step is super solid. Now, of course, this is a little less fun when you, maybe it's even more fun. If you pay 2 bolts on the level 3 side, do you prep 2 dice? Do you? What do you think? Leave me a comment below. Tell me, if you pay 2 bolts to field the 2/4/4 side, do you prep 2 dice? That would be really interesting. That'd be really intriguing. Huh, I'll have to think about that one. I hadn't thought about that until literally just when I was talking about it. That's kind of funny. Jubilee, the common Jubilee. Jubilee is a rebellious nature, 2-cost bolt character, X-Men affiliated, an 021-133-243 stat line, so solid stats but high fielding cost like we've seen in the past. She also has Energize. Energize, if you have less life than your opponent, you may immediately field this die for free at level 2. So here's the scenario. You buy a bunch of these, your opponent's hit you a few times, maybe you're only down 1 life, maybe it's like 17 to 16, you have 16. You roll this on the double bolt and it becomes a level 2 3/3. It becomes a 1/3/3, but you don't have to pay the 1. You just field this as a 3/3, which is really cool. So this is a character, if you have less life, I should say, this is a character on 5 of the 6 sides, which is really interesting and really good if you plan on doing any fielding type damage. Like this plus super rare Thor seems really cool. It seems really solid. You play this along super rare Thor and you're almost always guaranteed to field Jubilee here. Sometimes you just roll it as the 2/1. Sometimes you have to pay for it with the 3/3 or the 4/3 side. And sometimes you just roll this as double bolts and it comes up and you field it for free and deal your 2 damage from super rare Thor. I think this is really neat. And so far, all of the cards that I've just shown you are all pretty solid and limited. Okay, I've played a lot of the X-Men Forever campaign box. That's how I taught my 5-year-old son to play. We used exactly that set because I knew he could relate to some of the characters as X-Men within that set. So I've played a lot of that set, and that set is absolutely wonderful for limited casual kind of kitchen tabletop play. One of the better kitchen tabletop play experiences that you can get in a campaign box. Highly recommend it. And these cards that we've just gone through all remind me of just great options from that set. So great limited play, kind of kitchen table play. This is exactly what I'm getting. These cards give me that exact same vibe. So highly recommend checking out that previous set if you like the kitchen table play, and highly recommend that you pick some of this up if you're looking for that same type of feeling, because these cards give me that exact same type of feeling. Speaking of cool cards, Psylocke Eris is a 4-drop mask character, X-Men affiliated. This is the rare, and it has the same Psylocke stat line, 012-022-133 stat line. This one has 2 abilities. First of all, it says, Psylocke gets +2 attack for each of your X-Men dice in the prep area. So this is sort of a conditional ability. If you have 2 X-Men dice in your prep, you know, maybe you've been prepping them up, then all of a sudden her stats look a lot better. That 012 level 1 side with 2 X-Men character dice in your prep, well, let's just put it at 1 because that's more likely. Let's say you have 1 X-Men die in your prep. Okay, that's possible. That's really fairly easy to do. Something gets KO'd on a previous turn. Now all of a sudden your Psylocke is a 3/2. Okay, or on top it's a 5/3. Not too bad, right? If you had 2, it gets really, really strong. But still, just for that 1 ability, this is sort of underpowered for a 4-drop. You wouldn't pick this up most likely in draft unless you were rare drafting. Now, the second ability says, Energize. Spin target character die up 1 level. So, if we wanted to, we could pick this up for 4, or maybe if you're playing in Constructed, you could run this alongside of Asuka and only look to roll this as double energy, double mask, which is important because there are tons of mask globals out there and lots of them are very good. If you roll this as double mask, you can now basically trigger like an awaken effect whenever you roll this as double mask, which is kind of cool. This just automatically triggers an awaken effect. If you have an awakened character out in the field, you spin them up 1 level, they trigger their effect. And then you can use the masks to spin it back down and spin it back up. Come on, there's something there. There's got to be something there, right? That's a possibility. This doesn't look like something you would take in draft so much if you were drafting, just because this is a 4-drop that doesn't really do much for you. But if you're building around this in Constructed, and let's say you just purchased a bunch of these for 2 because you're running Osco, which discounts all of your masked characters by 2, and you maybe had some Rare Nebula stuff going on where when Rare Nebula spins up, she deals damage, then all of a sudden you could maybe load up on these and use the energy to pop a bunch of energy fields if you roll the Energize effect after already spinning one of them up. I feel like there's some potential here just because it allows you to manipulate your board state into position so that you can use things like Mutation Global, which we saw as being reprinted. If you watch my most previous video to this one, you can trigger Mutation Global or Energy Field Global more easily because you can put the characters in position that you need them to be so that you can spin them back and forth more easily. So interesting card. Maybe not the most powerful, maybe doesn't make the cut all the time, but definitely has some potential to kind of fit onto one of those Rare Nebula teams, which hasn't cut it into the meta yet, but I really do think has some legs. I gotta mess with that. Now those are all the good guys. Let's talk about some of the bad guys that we're gonna see in this set. Like Toad, looking for camaraderie, a 3-cost fist character. You got the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants affiliation, which is important to remember because there's a ton of Brotherhood synergies out there in the wild, also in this set, so definitely good to remember. This is the uncommon. It's got a strange stat line. If you've never seen the Toad stat line, it's just one of the weirder ones out there, possibly because it also has 2 burst faces. It's got the 1/2/1 burst face. It's got the 2/3/2 burst face, and then on level 3, it's a 2/4/4. Okay, so lots of fielding costs, burst faces galore. The effect doesn't actually have anything to do with burst faces, so there's that as well. It says Energize. You may spin one of the character dice in your reserve pool from a character face to level 1. It's kind of weird. This is kind of a weird one because, so what is this essentially doing? It's essentially taking, like, let's say that you roll a character die and it's level 3, and for some reason you wanted it on a different level, like character face. Like, for example, you want to trigger an Awaken effect. You put it on level 1 with Toad here, and then you can field it and then spin it up with some sort of a trigger. Like even we just saw the previous card that we talked about, the Psylocke can spin it up if you roll that on the Energize as well. That's a lot of moving parts. Probably easier to just trigger one of the globals that spins the die up and then you can trigger the Awaken effect. But this is some sort of contingency plan if you don't roll the character die on like a functional level. Like say you need it on level 3, or sorry, you need it on level 1 so you can spin it up, but you get it on level 3. So in that exact scenario, I could see this being possibly something you'd want to go for, but it's not crazy. It's not like one of those woohoo things you want to just like go for. Now maybe there's something else within this set that really plays off of this. And don't forget, it's a Brotherhood character die, and Brotherhood character dice are important to remember because there are some synergies. Speaking of synergies, let's talk about the big man himself. Let's talk about the Magnetos that we've seen so far. For example, this Magneto is the uncommon Magneto. This came out of the what is that? What is that? Game Trade magazine, I think. That's the illustration. No, the place that it came from. Okay, Magneto Visionary is the uncommon. It's the 5-drop mask character, also Brotherhood related. It's a 1442 something something. 2 something something. The stat line is covered right here. I'll read it here in a second on one of the bigger cards. The Uncommon's ability, which you may have already seen, says, while he's active, your Brotherhood character dice can only be blocked by 2 or more character dice. So it makes it all of a sudden a lot harder for your opponent to block a bunch of these characters, which is cool. It also has Team Watch. Prep a die from your bag. And if you don't remember what Team Watch is a keyword wherein the character die that has Team Watch is sitting out in the field waiting to see a similarly affiliated character enter the field. So Magneto's looking for a Brotherhood character to come into the field with him, to be fielded. When that happens, you trigger the Team Watch effect. Each time that happens, you trigger the Team Watch effect. So if you can somehow field 3 Brotherhood characters while Magneto's out there, 3 dice come into the field, you prep 3 dice, which is pretty cool. The global says pay a mask once per turn during your turn. If you have no dice in prep, then you can draw a die and place it in prep. So it's the old school Villainous Pact global, but now it's printed here on Magneto. Now, let's talk about the super rare. The super rare looks like this one, and yes, this is probably the clearest picture that we can get. This is also from Game Trade Magazine. It says Magneto, founder of the Brotherhood. He's a 6 cost. He's got the same affiliation, that Brotherhood affiliation. And here's the stat line a little clearer. A 144-257-368 stat line. He says, while Magneto is active, when one of your Brotherhood character dice is KO'd, KO target opposing character die. And then he's got the exact same global, draw and prep a die if nothing is over there in prep. So this one's pretty cool as well, in the sense that if you can somehow trigger and KO your own Brotherhood character dice, then your opponent's going to get their stuff KO'd as well. And you get to pick what KOs on their side. So that's a pretty cool one. Now, we know about those two already. Those are not spoilers. If you haven't seen them, I guess they're spoilers to you. If you have seen them, you're like, okay, let's move on. The last card we're going to talk about is a Magneto, and it's a Magneto that's going to make some people very happy, and I'll tell you why. If you watched one of the super rare spoiler videos that I made, you saw super rare Mystique, and there's an ability on super rare Mystique that is pretty disgusting. I think it's something along the lines of Team Watch. Spin one of your opponent's character dice to an energy of their choice. So anytime you field a Brotherhood or a villain character, while Mystique is out there, she just gets to take away one of your opponent's characters, which is super cool, super strong. It's on a 3-drop. She's a 3-drop, so it's easy to get to. And there were some people that were like, why'd they print that on a super rare? That's too powerful. I'm going to have to go and find that super rare. Otherwise, I just don't get to play with an effect like that. And that kind of sucks. Like, people were a little bit bummed that that's printed on like this power level super rare that some people aren't just going to have access to. So, boop. Look, it's the exact same ability. Magneto, Master of Magnetism, 5-cost mass character, Brotherhood affiliated, same stat line, 144-257-368. Team Watch, spend target opposing character die to an energy face of your opponent's choice. And this one comes with the global, the prep global. So all of a sudden, if you can get this out in the field, it costs 2 more. Okay, so there's that. It costs 2 more. It's 5. Now, if you're running this in Constructed and you're playing Asuka, it costs 3, just like the other one. But this one costs 5. Okay, so there's going to be people that are like, this one costs 5. The other one's clearly better. I'm not saying that the other one is not better. I do think the other one's better because it's got a vanilla purchase cost of 3, and this one has a vanilla purchase cost of 5. But the fact that they gave you the exact same ability, which says Team Watch, spend target opposing character die to an energy face of your opponent's choice, means now you have access to this ability and you don't have to luck out and find the super rare or go box hunting or do some big trade just to get that super rare Mystique. Okay, so you should feel a little bit more rest assured that you have access to an ability that seems really cool. Now, again, I think the upsides on Mystique are greater. It's cheaper. She has 2 affiliations, so you could put villains on your team or Brotherhood. This one only works with Brotherhood. But I think this is cool. I like the idea of them taking an ability and making it functionally similar with some tweaks here and there. Now, if I could have my druthers, maybe you switched these two. Maybe you put the this ability on Magneto, or I guess how would you switch it? You would give him the villain affiliation so that he gets the benefit of both characters, and she only gets the benefit of Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. That would be an interesting way to balance it, but honestly, I don't care that much because like both of these are really cool. Both of them have their merits in some way, shape, or form, and I'm personally really encouraged to see that you have a powerful ability, which I enjoy, on super rares, and you have a functionally similar ability on a rare card, which still is one of the higher rarities, so it's a little harder to find than a common or an uncommon card, but I think it's cool, okay? So just go with me on that. I don't know. Tell me in a comment below if you disagree, if you think that it's still annoying, or if you agree, let me know in a comment below as well. So those are some more cards from this set that we have to look forward to. And I think, isn't the release date like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving for Americans? I guess Canadian Thanksgiving just passed, and wherever you're at, the release date's obviously going to be different. I wish we could all have a unified release date. That really bums me out. It would be so nice to have a worldwide release for once, but you never know. Maybe down the line they can line that up. I mean, if you had noticed, or if you saw the announcement, they have announced that they're expanding their distribution into Europe a little bit more, which is really cool. Hopefully that leads to even more expansions, to even more places down the road, and we can have something that resembles a lot more of a worldwide release down the way. But the fact that they're making motions and movements towards that is encouraging, to me at least. Let me know what you think about this video in a comment below. If you want to see more Dice Masters stuff, feel free to like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.